Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, Sixers, to another episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. This is episode 105, and today is March 14th, 2022. I'm Bill, and I'm joined, as always, by my irrational co-hosts, Amy and Jordan.
Sorry, it's a weird thing. Keep going.
Okay. You know why it's irrational today, right?
Ish. I mostly went the feminist route, and that doesn't make any sense with what you're trying to say, so it's fine.
It's Pi Day.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I'm not a math person. I ate pie, but math is not my forte, so continue.
No worries. Before we get started, we do want to remind our listeners that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. That means if there's something in the Cosmere or just the Brandon sphere in general that you haven't read or heard about, and you're worried about hearing spoilers, you might want to head over and read those first, then come back and join the discussion. Now, tonight, we are talking about Sanderson's third law, which is...
Bill, I think you might want to... backtrack that just a little bit.
Wait, what?
Did you not see the secret video?
There was a secret video?
Yeah, you should check and then check Kickstarter afterwards.
Oh, shoot. I was in Las Vegas last week, so I missed a lot of stuff, I guess.
Yeah,
no.
You may want to check that.
No, okay. So unless you have been hiding under a rock for the past couple of weeks, you're probably aware that Brandon made a super secret announcement a couple of weeks ago, which threw everybody into an uproar. We decided to change the topic of this episode. It probably there are other things that people want to discuss. And like I said, if you have been hiding under a rock, you should head over to check out Brandon's March 1st video on his YouTube channel. That's Brand Sanderson. Not Brandon, Brand, because I think it's used for branding purposes. So, hey, cool.
Never got that, but that makes a lot of sense.
But before we get into that, for those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or watch the videos on YouTube, we do want to remind you that you can actually interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.twitch.tv/InkeepersTable. We record episodes of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So please join us and take an active part in the discussion. The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. The show will, of course, continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, head on over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Donate $1 or $2. It really helps us out. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere and other stuff with other listeners. We got a great community, awesome people. Honestly, they're just amazing.
Top tier community.
Top tier. You also get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and other good stuff. And just as a reminder, we did recently meet a stretch goal on Patreon where we do monthly monologues. We should have one of those coming out sometime soon.
Next week.
Next week. And I think the plan for that is to be the last off week of the month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So basically the weeks when we don't do a podcast, it won't be every off week. It'll be the last one of the month. So keep an eye out for that. And I think that'll just come out on the regular feed, correct?
We were going to keep it patron only for like a week.
Yes.
And then we were going to release it. Yeah.
And that's the thing is patrons get early access to that. So that's one of the cool things that they get.
This will be nice because a lot of times there's these little tiny subjects that we want to talk about, but it's like, that's not a full episode. So this will give us a chance to explore some of those concepts.
Also, Jordan doesn't have to worry about anybody, interrupting because he's got stuff to say.
Yeah, right. The problem is people interrupting Jordan. That's the issue.
Oh man. just speaking of our patrons, though, we do want to thank a new patron. I'm suspecting this is pronounced Angel G. So thank you so much. You're amazing. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so to the announcement, just sort of some backstory for what's going on. On February 28th, Brandon put out his normal announcement, but something seemed off. Like, as soon as he started talking, I was just like, oh, he seems
He's
broken.
sick. What's wrong? I was like, what's wrong?
I was worried. So now, if you haven't watched that video, I suggest you pause the podcast right now and go watch it on his YouTube channel, Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah, Brandon was looking like he was going to be able to swear an oath at that point. He looked so depressed.
I was worried about him. And he mentioned that he had a stressful announcement to make the next day. Now, March 1st, he announced in a very serious, just staring at the camera, it's your typical my fellow Americans, things aren't good type announcement. He says that he'd been lying to us and he'd been behaving irresponsibly because he had written another book.
Very he just slams it on the table, and it's just like the manuscript there.
And another.
And another one.
And then he put
and
3
another
on the table.
one.
There were a total of 5 books that he
and he went and he went and talked to and he did a whiteboard, and he had the whiteboard swap in and out as he walked back and forth, and it was talking about pie chart stuff, and it was amazing.
Which by the way is absolute gold for people who are making memes. Oh my gosh.
So I want to start. First of all, I want to tell everyone how this happened. So I knew Brandon was making an announcement. I didn't know when. All I knew was Bill was going to Las Vegas that day. And then it's at the morning time. Bill comes in. Have you seen the Brandon announcement? And I'm like, no, I was going to check it out later. Look at it now. And I could tell in the tone of voice that this was non-optional. And so I start watching it, and Bill's just like, this man.
No.
Bill was mad.
I used language that I don't use on the podcast.
It's true, yeah. No,
it was language that I don't normally use at all.
Yeah, but it was it was more hilarious just because I had Bill coming in happy mad, which I didn't realize was too big of an emotion, but apparently it's there. And the thing I love the most about that entire thing, one, we now know Brandon has a little bit of acting to him. He
Oh, Brandon's a showman.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Well, it's not just that he's a showman. It's that he that was a competent performance he put on. I believed that he was he was struggling.
So during the February 28th video, I believed he was struggling. As soon as the March 1st video started, I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong here. Because he's just doing, I've been lying to you. And I'm just like, oh, this is absolutely a troll. But I was genuinely worried about him because in the first video, he didn't say, I honestly think he was was hoarse for some completely unrelated reason. And it just happened to fall perfectly on the right day.
Or he was pulling his voice to do that just a little bit more to give it that oomph. Because he said that he was in one of his live streams, he talked about how he's like, that was genuine emotion, but just from earlier. He's like, I pulled from that, from that feeling and that everything else. So
yeah, I I was on Reddit, everybody's speculating, people are just like, what's going on? Was there infidelity? Did he, has he committed tax fraud? What's going on? And, a lot of people are just like, oh, he, it's probably something good. It's a troll. And other people are just like, I am genuinely worried because the way he made it sound, it sounded like he had overexerted himself and he was going to have to pull back on the Cosmere. And he was a lot of people were speculating that he was outsourcing a lot more of his work to other authors and stuff like that.
That was my guess was he was doing that.
So this is where I get to be smug. I thought when he said he had an announcement that it was going to be positive, and in my head, I said, I bet it's a secret book. Now, I didn't say it publicly because he said it so seriously that I didn't want to be the guy who's like, he's lying. I bet he's trolling us. And then it turns out it's real. And then it's like, oh no, I'm that guy now.
Well, and what happened is I was watching Jordan watch this video very, very carefully. And, he pulls out the book and says, I wrote another book. And Jordan just says, I knew it. And I just kept a straight face. And I just said, keep watching.
Yeah. It's incredible how it's how you could have put the over under at like number of secret books on this announcement, and literally if you put it at 1, like most people would have taken the 1.5, people would have taken the under, and he significantly outkicked the coverage there.
Yeah.
So the other thing that's really interesting about this, though, because Brandon came out and blows everybody's minds. He drops this huge announcement and shocks everyone. And then he says, "Oh, and by the way, there's a Kickstarter. It's going to be a subscription box every month. You're going to get, a bunch of swag, and every 3 months you're going to get a new book." And he called it the Year of Sanderson.
And then he talks about being humble later.
He's a humble man.
First thing that came to my mind was a meme that people put out at the beginning of 2021. It's like, or at the beginning of 2022, it's like, okay, nobody claim 2022 as your year. Go in quiet, be polite, don't touch anything. And then you just immediately see Brandon pop up, dibs on 2023, because 2023 is the year of Sanderson.
No,
it
was incredible how well this whole thing was done.
Oh yeah, I felt a little bad. I a little bit spoiled it for my husband because he hadn't watched the second video yet, and I was watching it as I was doing the elliptical, and he comes down and he's like, "What?" And I'm like laughing out loud because it's like partway into the book reveal, and I'm like, "Don't worry, you're fine. Just watch the video. It's fine. I can't tell you." Yep. I'm thinking so. I think he was genuinely a little bit worried too. Yeah. And then I alleviated that before he got to watch the video.
Yeah. This is one of the benefits of me being in a completely different part of the house from where Jordan lives.
Yeah.
Because I cackled when he started dropping books.
I was doing that too, like full on. It was great.
And but the thing is, so he blew everybody's mind and he's sitting here smug. And then his fan base turned it around on him because suddenly this Kickstarter proceeds to break every possible record.
And doing it quickly.
Well, that's the thing. One of the records was fastest to fund. He set what he thought was an ambitious $1 million goal.
Nope.
That was funded within like 10 minutes, I believe.
It was crazy.
It reached 1 million. When I checked, it reached 1 million in 20 minutes.
Okay, 20.
And it almost reached 2 million in the first hour.
Yeah,
which is insane. At the time of our recording, this Kickstarter is now at $28,626,796.
Speaking of records, the previous record was 20.7 million. So he has now dwarfed the previous record, which was for smartwatches.
Oh, man.
Like his Kickstarter last year. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
2 years.
Okay, his Kickstarter in 2020, that one was the most successful literary Kickstarter ever. This is the most successful Kickstarter ever. Of any Kickstarters.
And it's I believe now third most backed, just in terms of most people who've done it.
Yeah, I think so.
This graphic programmer in chat says, he's going to troll us with 4 books? Well, we'll get him back. 27 mil. Take that.
No, it's the whole thing dwarfs it by so much that like the point is the Way of Kings thing, that was a $6.7 million campaign. The gap between number 1 and number 2 is so big that you could literally fit Brandon's other campaign on top of the number 1 campaign, and he still has $2 million left over.
So what you're saying is it worked?
Yep, I would say so.
That I would. That's how I would like to characterize this. How this went.
No, this event, I think, in 1 even years' time, is going to be studied in marketing classes.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, man. So there was also another author, and I can't remember his name. Will
White or right?
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, there was another author, and I
It's
feel bad.
WIGHT or WRIGHT. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it's something like that. Anyway, but he was going to put out his Kickstarter the next day, and he was like, "Well, I'm going to re-record my video," and he parodied it, and it was great.
It was wonderful.
So great.
Well, and I like the attitude he went in with it. He's like,
Mhm.
if you're gonna donate to one Kickstarter, you're probably donating to his, and I get it. But if you're going to donate to two,
consider mine. And I think like I'm even just amongst our patrons, a bunch of people are like, you know what? His books look good. I'm going to do that too. You know, and so like, and I think my husband's going to look into him, and I'm going to look into him too. And just, I mean, he did well following on the coattails there.
He handled it very well.
Mm-hmm.
So because I'm dumb, and by that I mean obsessed with math, I decided to see what is the gap between Brandon and the next number 2, the Pebble Time Watch.
Uh-huh.
And it's the number 16 campaign overall would plus the number 2 one is what it would take to get to Brandon right now.
It's just
so 16 best all time plus it's 16. So it's an important number. So we know that it's all part of the plan.
It's good.
It all comes together.
No, it's no, the numbers blow it away. Just the fact that he came up with this one, I love his concept of the of how he wants to do the subscription box, where he
the limited subscription.
Yeah. Because I've had that issue is that he talks about as well, that things sort of peter out.
What do you do after 2 years of it? 3 years? Like what else are you going to put in there?
You can only come up with new stuff for so long before it starts getting a bit
the same.
The same or a little bit unwieldy. It's like you can only one-up yourself so many times.
Yeah.
Well, and the way he's going about it is, this, like you said, it's going to be studied in marketing classes. It's so brilliant because it taps into the whole thing my mom told me once, which was a favor unexpected is better than a big project that is expected. And so, you know, these aren't the books that we were expecting at all. We were happy to get the Lost Metal in November, and then we'd wait kindly for the next Stormlight Archive. Yeah. And then Brandon accidentally's 4 more books the next year.
Oops.
Yeah. Oops, all books.
Speaking of, have y'all been noticing a lot of the memes that have been coming out?
They're good. They're like
the meme game for this has been so stinking on point.
You know, and you know, Brandon doesn't like it when people compare other authors to him or badmouth other authors because of him. But there have been some great troll videos.
Yeah.
Referring to, you know, Pat Rothfuss and George R.R. Martin. And
yeah, the skit by Daniel Green was up, and I think he made a new one.
George. Hello, George.
Sorry, I just love that.
I just love I desperately now need Brandon to say somewhere in Substream, my raw, untapped power.
Maybe we can get Brandon to start doing streams kind of like what is it? What's it called? Trailers, Honest Trailers guy.
Oh yeah.
Honest Trailers.
Where at the end of it he just reads certain lines.
Yeah, my raw, untapped power. The other thing I'd feel worse about it if we don't have videos of Pat Rothfuss literally talking about this exact thing.
Yes.
How he wants to eat a piece of Brandon's liver to get a part of that power.
I haven't seen that one.
Well, the liver makes sense. Think about it. It regrows. So, no, but the thing that's so cool about like this relative to other authors, so I saw the comment someone made where the only other fantasy author that has ever produced at this rate is Stephen King in the 80s. Mind you, Stephen King in the 80s was on cocaine. And there's like, so Brandon is like Stephen King in the 80s, except Brandon's cocaine is just writing more.
Yep.
Because he's
ice
an
water.
addict.
And he's past it, I think,
and
too.
Ice water. Apparently
Yes,
Brandon...
Ice water's delicious. It is.
No, the other comment I loved, because he gets up there and he does the, points of the board, and he's like, it's a fundamental equation is, as fundamental as pi or whatever. And it's, Brandon plus time equals stories. And then someone pointed out that implies that stories minus time equals Brandon.
Ooh.
And it's like he's absolutely right.
The math checks out.
Yeah, math checks out. And so I'm always there for a good algebraic pun, joke, whatever. No, the other thing that I loved about the announcement was the fact that everything was ready to go. It shows once again how good the Dragonsteel team is. Which, by the way, Dragonsteel team, I need a Dragonsteel shirt. Just a shirt with your guys' logo. I need that. Put that on the store. I'll buy it. You got one sale. I don't know how that works with your market research, but you get at least one sale. There's three of us here. One of us wants to buy it. You have millions of fans.
Two.
It's millions of sales. Book it.
Yeah. Jordan has frozen.
I don't know what happened. Oh, there he is. He's moving again, at least.
And but yeah, it's just that. Well, there may be something like that in one of the swag boxes. There's going to be 8 of them next year. Who knows?
Oh man, yeah. We didn't. Josh and I didn't do the swag boxes. Just I want to, but
I had to.
I knew you would. Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm thinking next year we have a monthly "What's in the Box" segment.
Oh yeah,
since you'll have that, yeah.
Easy, gotta have it.
Yep.
No question.
I'll try and set up like an audio drop. What's in the box? What's in the box?
It's in the box.
Since we can now do that with Zencastr.
Indeed, because it's just great.
It does things. Thank you, Dan Wells.
Okay, so speaking of these announcements, each week Brandon has been like, this is one thing I think is really cool, is that Brandon has said some people want to go in completely unspoiled without even knowing the title. They want a magic book to show up on their desk from Brandon, without them even knowing what it's about. So he's keeping that spoiler free, but he has made announcements in each week in a stream on Thursdays. Now, we're going to talk about those in just a minute. So if you're listening and you want to keep that spoiler for yourself, this is probably the time.
Yep.
Would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
One thing I want to say before we go into
before that.
So I love he shows the 4 books, and he with no titles. My favorite thing was again on r/creme posting, which is just in a rare form right now. They're having such a good time.
They've got so much material right now.
There's so much material, and Brandon's offered them like 3 different new meme templates thanks to his video. But someone said, these new covers are looking really good, and someone had photoshopped the covers with like artwork from other things, but done in such a way that you can't quite see it. My favorite being the book 1 cover. They had changed it to the famous scene from Little Mermaid with Ariel like on the rock.
On the rock, yeah.
The silhouette of that. But the moon in the background was the Majora's moon from and I didn't even catch it the first time because I was laughing at Ariel, and then I read the comments like, I didn't even catch the Majora's moon. I'm like, what? And I go back and look, I'm like, oh man, there's a lot more to this than I noticed.
I need to look closer at the other titles, the other covers. I have to anyway.
But yeah. So anyway, this is the spoiler mark, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Spoiler!
Okay. So the first book, and that's the other thing to keep in mind, is that 3 of these 4 books are in the Cosmere. Not only are they in the Cosmere, they're on new worlds. They're on worlds we have never been to before.
We know the name of the first one though.
Do we? Which?
Yep.
Lumar.
It was in one of the videos
when he was talking to Isaac. Yeah,
I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, so they named it on screen. They're like, "Oh yeah, so it's Lumar," and he's like, "Wait, were we supposed to say that?" And so it's like, "Well, I guess it's out there now." So yeah, but it's called Lumar. I'm pretty sure.
But
if I got that wrong, please let me know.
But
A
yeah,
world
so
with geosynchronous moons that
It's like 12
that
moons, isn't
spit up spores and
there is nothing
Yeah.
natural about this. But like this place has to have been specially created. Like we know that Roshar was specially created by Adonalsium.
Mhm.
This place has got to have something similar going
Well, on
on.
this one, it also like I still haven't read Aether of Night, but there's mutated or changed aethers on this
Yes.
planet.
Yes.
So like that part, I'm like, dang it! I know there's things that are probably being implied that I'm not getting because I still haven't read it.
it's
But
okay.
yeah,
I
and
haven't read it either.
So
Also-
and yeah, but
No, go-
anyway, but Jordan, you said that someone made a cover with it being Little Mermaid,
Yes.
and I know that the inspiration was not Little Mermaid, but I look at that cover and I'm like, Little Mermaid. It screams that at me right away, and that's where my brain wants to go. And
Okay,
she's
so-
by the ocean, even though it's
so
not
yeah,
water. So
this first one, it's called Tress of the Emerald Sea.
Mhm.
And the instant you start reading it, first off, you know it's a story told by Hoyd. It's just it's in the Hoyd voice. It's the girl.
I didn't pick that up right away.
Really?
No.
Yeah. So it from the first sentence, I was like, okay, this is in Hoyd's voice. This is the girl who looked up. This is Wandersail. This is Fleet. This is one of those Hoyd stories.
You're much more of a Hoyd fanboy than I am. So like I think that plays into it, that I don't click into it as fast.
But the other thing I picked up, I'm kind of proud that I picked up on this immediately, is that it was inspired by The Princess Bride. I
didn't pick that up. I feel so bummed that I didn't pick that up.
Like as soon as I was listening, I was like, this feels familiar. This sounds like The Princess Bride. So bravo, Brandon, on that, because you found the style.
Yeah. Once it was pointed out, I was like, oh, I can kind of see it. Not that I can pick out like particular pieces, but I'm like, overall I can get that vibe still.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the other thing is the way it starts. It has a lot more of a traditional fairy tale feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Is this a shard world?
I don't know.
Do we know if there's a shard invested
we don't know.
on this
like
planet?
there kept being like hints or whatever at Whimsy, even though Brandon wouldn't say if it was Whimsy or not. And so I get the feeling that it's not Whimsy.
What hints at Whimsy were you getting?
Yeah.
It was in the live stream.
Oh.
That they were talking. Did you guys not watch them?
I didn't watch the full live stream.
Like I said, I was in Las Vegas.
You were in Vegas.
So
I
way
watched
busy.
I think most of the live streams, because of course they kept being timed with when my kids were almost in bed or getting ready for bed, so I had to like not watch them, or else my children were like, "Hey mom, you're ignoring us," and I'm like, "But Cosmere."
And
so
you're like,
I had
start reading the Cosmere.
Anyway,
I need you guys to be literate so that I can force you to read these books.
Well, they can read. They can read. They read very well, but they just aren't interested in them yet. Anyway, but I watched most of the live streams, and I think there may be some small gaps here and there where I didn't catch parts, but generally I've seen them. So I cannot remember direct quotes, but people were asking about Whimsy and things like that, and he either raffoed it or said no, and then kind of there was a feel to it that, yeah. So I don't think he said it was Whimsy's. But people kept being like, "Oh, but it could be," like they were still,
because Whimsy was the most popular choice I noticed on a lot of the discussion areas.
Honestly, if she wasn't invested somewhere else, I would have gone to cultivation with those spores.
Yeah,
because
they grow out of control.
They touch water and they explode. Brandon likes this whole concept of water touches something and it explodes, because Harmonium does the same thing.
It's fun.
That's just because of he had imagined super cesium.
Yes, I know.
But Whimsy makes a lot of sense given the world. The other one that I thought cultivation as well, because they don't necessarily have to have, like, they could have been shaped by them, but they don't necessarily have to be invested on them. Because we've seen the effects of stuff like that before. Like we see the effects of whatever went on with Odium in Ambition,
over Threnody.
Yeah, over Threnody. The other one I thought that it might be interesting was Mercy. That was one of the ones we were told.
Right. She was she was there when
Oh
Ambition.
yes, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to figure out how Mercy would fit into it. But continue.
My headcanon so far of what Mercy's going to be is I have a feeling Mercy might be the scariest of all the shards, because I imagine Mercy, untempered by anything else, is the ultimate helicopter parent that doesn't let. And so think of the way that this world is set up. People are stuck on their little islands and can't go anywhere. It seems to be like the ultimate, just holding someone in stasis because you want to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, while I still think Whimsy makes more sense, I was trying to logic myself into how could it be a different shard that we've heard the name of.
Oh gosh, Mercy plus Preservation would be absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, you never get to grow up or do anything. Oof.
Welcome to the Peter Pan world.
Except Peter Pan is kind of a scary story in its own if you take it to another way. Anyway, yes.
I'm thinking more the Norman Bates world.
Yeah, well.
Oh. Ugh. But it's pretty. And there's cups. I like all the cups. It was really cute. And I like that he wrote this for his wife.
Gonna be your response. Oh, cups.
I actually have a really... I have a cute like mug that's like, I don't usually buy too many florally things. I don't. But like I have this little like really nicely shaped kind of curvy little mug, and it's got like little pretty flowers on it and everything, and I'm like, oh, I just like the cups. Well, and then there's Charlie giving your cups.
It's funny you should mention those cups, because we're actually selling them on our store for our show.
They're not quite as shapely, though. They're just normal mugs.
This blatant product placement brought to you by our shop.
Ta-da!
Jordan, I'm so proud of you right now.
He sells dice, he sells cups, he sells mugs, he sells shirts. It's great.
He sells out. Oh, it's Jordan.
We need to get Jordan a little... That's another, like, we need a jingle, and I can play that anytime Jordan sells out.
Just get a cha-ching sound.
Cha-ching.
Oh, no, I was thinking like a 60s sitcom little...
Oh.
It's Jordan. Anyway.
Oh, man.
Oh,
I just realized now that we have the soundboard, we can put all of Amy's various squee noises in there.
That's
by the way, listeners, if there's ever an audio moment that you think we should save as a drop, send it in. Give me a sort of a time point in the episode and let me know, because I'd love to have a library of those built up.
Yeah.
Oh, but back to Tress and Charlie. I also love the concept of this island, the salty island.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's no ocean. That's the other thing I want to talk about. Brandon was talking about the whole liquefaction process. And it reminded me of, do y'all know who Mark Rober is?
Yes.
He's a YouTube guy.
He's awesome.
He used to work for NASA. He
does the glitter bombs for all the theft package theft. Yes.
But another episode he did was where he filled a hot tub with sand and turned it in and liquefied it.
It was
by
crazy.
putting air through it.
It was like liquid and freaky and awesome.
Anytime somebody went in head first, I just freaked out, because it was like, what if it cut off right then?
Oh, don't do it.
But Brandon has played with this concept where if you push air through particles at the right speed or force,
vibration or something, at
the right insert scientific variable here, then it basically behaves as a liquid. And Brandon has done that with the sea, where people actually will sail across these spores, and there's a lot of spores. It's basically,
hope people don't get seasick, because that could be bad.
It's basically Shadesmar's beats. What would Shadesmar look like? Oh, that just hit me. What would Shadesmar look like on this planet?
Have you ever been to the mushroom biome in Minecraft?
No. Actually, I think my kids have. They've seen mushrooms. But in the live stream, someone actually asked what Shadesmar looked like, and they didn't give a direct answer, but they joked around and said, it looks like cake. So that's the jokey answer, is that it looks like cake on the other side.
So it has layers.
Spongy. No, it's spongy.
Anyway, I don't know. That was what I remember them saying. So if somebody else remembers better in the live stream or whatever in the comments, then let us know, because it's a lot of information that came out.
Shadesmar would be very odd
Yeah.
on this, I think.
Mm-hmm. So they didn't give a direct answer yet, but they said cake.
You know, thinking of Shadesmar, I actually think it'd be incredibly hostile because everyone knows the sea will murder you. And thinking of it in such hostile terms, I think would actually cause that land to be very dangerous in some way.
Let alone if the spores are sentient, which I think they might be to a degree.
Well, everything is in this universe.
Well, yeah, I know.
So
but
are the spores the corrupted aethers?
I thought they were because they're coming
Okay.
down from
The moons?
wherever it was. Yeah, from the moons. That's right.
I just realized this could be one other shard. This could be invention. I could totally see this world having been shaped by invention, being like, let's try and do this.
Let's do this.
Let's create a 12 geosynchronous.
I don't know.
Now here's a question.
We know so little about those shards, so.
Yeah.
Now here's a question. How do they know there's 12 of them?
They probably can see them.
They don't move. They never move.
They clearly have charts from
and
other
I mean,
places.
if people are sailing, then they will have mapped the moons.
Well, I mean, unless they've circumnavigated the globe, they may not have.
It sounds like Charlie went fairly far. But I mean, we don't know. But I mean, they also in the live stream did not say exactly how the moons were going to work because at the time Sanderson said that he was still working with people to figure out how to make that work. So they may move. I don't know.
It also
the other thing is you would be able to figure it out with if they. I'm assuming they understand gravity. If they're sailing like this, you'd be able to figure it out. If there's no tides, you would need exactly a certain number to counterbalance to prevent there from being tides of some kind.
I know someone also asked in the live stream, like, are they static points or whatever? And they said, would they be kind of like a D20 and like have that kind of configuration? And he said that's how he pictures it. It's sort of like a D12, all those little points that a D12 has. But
well, we now know it wasn't invention. It was whatever shard runs a D&D campaign and
the gamer
was trying to see if he could make an entire world of dice.
Let's make it a D12, guys. It'll be great.
Yep. Okay, so Amy, you're seem to be feeling squishy about Tress and Charlie.
It's cute. It's so cute. I mean, you have and like now looking back on it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's totally that's why it's the Princess Bride vibe. Is like their relationship is the whole vibe, and it didn't click before because I was just like, they're just so cute, but then. Just now it clicked and I'm like, why didn't this click earlier?
Didn't he say this is the book he wrote for his wife?
This was the one he wrote for her, and it's adorable.
Yeah. Well, she mentioned that the frustrating thing about the Princess Bride was that after Wesley got lost, Buttercup did nothing. She literally went into her room and was depressed.
And just like sat there. It's like the whole thing that Bella did in Twilight, which you guys probably didn't read, where there's like
I watched the riff tracks.
In the movie, like there was a really cool moment where Edward leaves and Bella just like sits there and they have like the months just pass and she's sitting there and like what changes is the scenery outside but not her. So like that's kind of a cool thing, but it's a horrible response to heartbreak. It sucks. Heartbreak really does. It's terrible. It's awful, but you have to do something, not just. Yeah.
And so Tress's response is, hey, I guess I'm going to have to go find him. And it's just, she's just like,
well,
here we go.
I was so stressed out when the new heir came down and it wasn't clear it was him right away. And I was like, oh no, Charlie gave up on her. What? How could, and I'm like, oh, it's not him. Good. Charlie's still awesome. We like this.
Well, I was just worried because, because the marriage had happened and I wasn't expecting Brandon to have like a home
break up a marriage. Yeah. It's like, I don't see him doing that. No.
Yeah. Like that. I mean, cause he clearly, what's the word? Circumvented that in Mistborn Era 2 with, Marasi and
Steris.
And Steris.
Oh yeah. That Marasi just stepped back. she's like, no, it's an older brother type more thing than.
And so it's just so, I was just like, this doesn't feel like Brandon. No. I don't think he's going to do this. So how is he going to,
let alone in a book dedicated to his wife, kind of. That's right. That feels extra weird. But no, that part was nice. I liked that.
Well, the other thing I like about it is she's not special.
I know, and she makes such a big and like, and the other thing is, I didn't realize it when I was reading it, but when she's describing herself, she's talking about her character traits and her personality. Mm-hmm. You don't really see what she looks like until later. Like, that's not the part she focuses on. And apparently,
the first thing is the hair color.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's
beyond that.
You're not talking about I'm curvy and svelte or whatever else, or whatever the phrases are going to be. Like, there's so many scenes in books where people look in a mirror at themselves because they want to get that across to the reader. But I mean, it's hard to not do that if you're not being careful.
Is the character looking in the mirror to describe themselves the book version of like when the movie goes, as you know?
Oh, that's in books too. They call that the maiden butler.
Yeah.
Where the maiden butler describing, as you know, the lord of the manor has been out doing, and it's just like, well, then if they already know, why are you telling this?
Well, everybody knows this. But no, I think this probably was in the live stream as well. He talked about how part of why he had her describe herself the way that she did, is because he had read or seen or talked to women, and they were complaining about the fact that, like, all these girl characters are instantly described by their bodies and focused on that way, compared to I'm a person, not just a shape and whatever else. And I think he said that he just kind of like took that in and let that like percolate, and then that's how he did it. And so I was like, that is really nice. Like, and it didn't feel like a big deal, but it's a nice touch.
Absolutely.
It's clever on the other end, though, because when she sees the one she first thought is engaged to Charlie, she does describe what she looks like.
Yep.
And that would make sense because she's comparing herself. Because she wants to know what she wants to.
She doesn't know her either, so she doesn't have any personality to go off of as well.
The only thing she has.
Yeah, and so, but that's what I like about it, is it suddenly it's what she's. What did I lose to? Okay. Well, okay, that looks like what I expected, at least, like it would be a real kick in the pants if he'd showed up and, it was just not your fairy tale princess. It's like, son of a gun.
She's got to have a good personality, but that feels like a cruel thing to say because looks shouldn't matter for everything,
The other thing that's really cool about the way that Brandon's written this is that her not being special, that's her own description of herself. But everything she's comparing, she's comparing herself to these other girls who say, I'm not like other girls. And she's like, well, they're all not like other girls together. So that means I must be like other girls. If they're all not like other girls, then I must be just normal.
Yeah. And
it's just, and so it's left to you to interpret, she actually is kind of special. She doesn't realize it, but she's pragmatic about it too. She's not critical of herself at all. She's very, very pragmatic. Almost to the point where I wondered if she was supposed to be somewhere on the spectrum.
No,
I don't know that she is.
I don't think so. I think
that was just sort of something that popped into my head.
And I think Sanderson even said in the live stream that like he based a little bit of the personality on Emily, that she's very pragmatic and like you just get stuff done and do things that way. And it's,
you think someone like Brandon needs a pragmatic person as their partner?
I do remember at MiniCon when I went to the Sanderson women. Sanderson sisters panel, they talked about the fact that like Emily's like, I'm the person who has to say no.
Good for her,
because he would say yes to things and she's like, no, this is your time, I need you to XYZ. You can't just say yes to everything. So
I love that she's willing to do that, and that
he's cool with
listens.
it.
I think that's healthy.
The other thing I like about this narrative framing device is it's a very different style of book for Brandon, because he gets to write the entire thing in Hoyd's incredibly cheeky tone. And so he normally would not get to do that. But doing it like that lets you focus on things you wouldn't focus on otherwise.
There have been a few moments where I'm like, okay, Brandon, pull it back a little, pull it back a little, but where it feels a little bit more like Brandon and less like Hoyt, if that makes sense. I'm not sure about that. And I also, just as I'm reading, I think this is probably his second or third draft. It's definitely not the final draft of it, because
No,
I
think it's probably his second. I think he said it was only his second one.
Yeah, I thought he said that.
Because it doesn't feel as polished as most of his other
stuff.
Yeah,
these are not as polished. And I still need to actually read the emails, because I listened to both of them because I had to do something when they came out, and I was like, well, I can't not listen to them, so we'll just do that. So
well, it's just fun to hear Brandon read his own stuff.
I know. It's fun. I like it.
No, I'm looking forward to these coming out.
And now I know I can do like posts with pretty cups when we talk about the book when it finally is out. It'll be great. Pretty cups, guys. You can look forward to that in 2023.
I just want to point out, given the release schedule, we're going to get 5 Brandon books in 12 months. And one of them is the finale to Era 2 of Mistborn.
Yeah.
Our topics are pretty well set for us next year.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I'm looking forward to this one quite a bit. I also everyone knows I'm a Hoyt fanboy like no other. Hoyt's a cabin boy in this.
I know. I was like, a cabin boy, really? Okay, I guess he wouldn't want to.
You think he'll ever sing a song?
Well, of course he will. I'm also wondering if cabin boy, that typically means young. So it's just like, has he altered his appearance yet again to make himself look even young? Because normally he looks like a young man, but not a boy.
Yeah. But I mean, you could always move into the profession late, and I think they probably would still call you a cabin boy. But I also like that it's kind of feels like Farm Boy from Princess Bride.
Maddie
I know Charlie would be that character, but
Maddie posits that there'll be Cosmere sea shanties. If it's a cabin boy. She's wrong. They're going to be Cosmere spore shanties.
Either way, I love it.
Spore shanties, ocean,
oh man,
sea. I mean, it's the Emerald Sea.
They do still call it sea.
That's the other thing that's interesting, is because the seas are made of these spores that come down from the different planets, and they're different colors. The regions are literally different colored seas. The Emerald Sea is very green, not just it's blue with some green tinges to it. Oh no, it's green.
And apparently, in part of the book, someone calls it the Verdant Sea, and it's the same place. The Emerald and the Verdant. They just have different names for it, but it's the same one.
Which is
they
also
clarified that in the live stream. Yeah.
Which is also very interesting, because in Aether of Night, one of the Aether types is called Verdant. And you know what they do? They grow vines.
They grow vines. That's what I remember.
And it's just like, that sounds like what these spores do when they get just a little bit wet.
Just a little.
So it'll be interesting to see what other Aethers from those books, or that unpublished book,
come out,
are represented through these different 12 moons.
I'm just really, the thing that has me most excited about this book is the fact that we're getting it from Hoyt's perspective. And just because you get, the way he's going to describe something's way different than how anyone else would. And just, you're going to get things like, he's describing her, and it comes across very, she had the color of hair of strained peaches, and, and it's just these odd comparisons that only he's going to make. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Would that be from Weird Al YankoWit?
I like it. Just a sec. I need to go get a name on Reddit.
That might be a title. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, so I realized the other thing that made me think of My Little Mermaid was the fact that she's going to go talk to like the sea witch type.
Yeah.
That's the part that I was sitting there going, it's Ursula. It's Ursula. Even though Josh is like, no, it's not Little Mermaid. I'm like, but it is. It totally feels like Little Mermaid to me. And I can't, like, that was my movie as a preschooler. Like, I loved that. I could still probably sing a lot of the songs, probably word for word. I'm not going to do it right now, but I probably could, because I watched it like over and over and over again. So yeah, Anyway,
Sorry.
everybody knows I love that movie apparently now.
Sorry,
yeah.
I'm laughing because Chad apparently is fond of your squeaks.
I know. Thank you. Wow, that felt really conceited. Anyway.
yeah, they do.
I'm gonna drink some water now. So
Is that water going to have salt in it to prevent the vines from growing? Because for the record, that's the most horrifying thing I think Brandon's ever written.
What, salty tea?
No, that's horrible as well. But no,
the
just
spores get into
the idea of just them growing into you and just like, I think there's some body horror films that are about that.
Yeah. If Brandon comes up with something, don't eat it, or as Isaac would appreciate, don't lick it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, should we move on to secret project number 2?
Yes, the LARPers.
I love the title of this one. The Frugal Wizard's Guide for Surviving Medieval England. Now, if that's not a Brandon title, like that sounds just very like out of the mind of Brandon Sanderson.
And like, he said that he came up with that title pretty early or whatever, and he's like, and I just really like he stuck with it really close. It did not change much. I love it.
Well, my first thought when I heard that title was, this is the Junior Woodchuck's guidebook written by corporate lawyers.
Something like that. It's also the Frugal Wizard's Guide. There was the Time Waster's Guide was the name of Brandon's old website.
Yep.
Which, if you want to learn more about that, go listen to our previous episode where we interviewed Dan Wells, because there was some chatter about that.
That's a callback.
So this one actually, he talked about his inspiration for this one as well at the end of the email, but I pictured something different. I can't remember what he said his inspiration for this one was, but the one that came to my mind was The Magic Kingdom of Landover. Have you ever heard of those books? They're by Terry Brooks. It's called like Magic Kingdom for Sale, Sold. And it's about this guy who lives just this mundane life, and he sees an ad for a magical kingdom and buys it and ends up getting sucked into it. And he's now the ruler and he has to solve all these problems. It's a humorous book. It's a really funny book. And Brandon has said the tone of this is funnier a little bit, but it's not a comedy book. It's going to expand more into epic adventure and stuff. But that's just sort of the feel I got. Since y'all don't know about it, then we probably
I feel like there were oh goodness, I can't remember the title, but there's another one where like a guy who's a programmer gets sucked into a fantasy world and magic is coding.
Yes, I know that one.
And my sister read it and she told me about it, and I haven't read it, but I know about it.
I have read it and I can't remember what it's called.
And I think it's on my to-read list, which my poor to-read list. It gets so neglected. But yeah, and that one makes like I kind of get that same vibe from it. I don't know if it's gonna stay that way or not, but it's
for those who are familiar with the what is it?
Wizard's Bane.
No, it was a different title, and I can't remember because there's probably more than one version of it. Oh, maybe I'll see if I can.
That's the first book in a series.
Yeah. So this is a genre of anime called isekai, where you get sucked into a magical or alternate world.
It's the Alice in Wonderland, the Wizard of Oz.
I have at least one manga that From Far Away. I love that manga. That's
but
Spirited Away.
I love this concept for Brandon doing this, because this is very much a non-Cosmere book. He couldn't do this in the Cosmere. Well, okay, I say that he'll find a way, but there's some combination of surge binding and hemalurgy that could make it happen. But so it's a very different type of story he gets to tell, and this goes back to that whole thing he talked about how he was starting to believe he was, as much as he loves his mainline books, that would be the rest of his life, that he would never get to explore these smaller stories that he has in his mind that clearly are very fun for him. And just, to remind everyone, literally Emperor's Soul, which is probably from a technical aspect, the best thing he's ever written, and Era 2 of Mistborn have both come out of these style of projects.
Yep.
Like we wouldn't have the Wax and Wayne books without Brandon just sort of putzing around and writing something that
would have skipped right to the 80s, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's also where we got stuff like Legion.
Yeah.
which I think is some of the most underappreciated stuff that Brandon's written.
I need to finish that one still. Dang it. My to-read list is long.
Of course, that's also where we get stuff like The Arithmetist, which we may never see the end of.
Shh, don't curse it. It's going to happen. We'll just trust. We'll trust. Sorry, I'm scrolling to try and find this.
No, so this is very interesting because this is much more akin to his middle grade books because it's written in the first person, which he normally only does in his middle grade. But the other thing is
he also did it in Legion, so
yeah. But it's very interesting just going with the narrative device of a guy who's forgotten who he is. Because normally Brandon doesn't play so much with such a limited perspective, since he normally writes in third person limited, and so he'll keep it to what that one character knows, but not keep you stuck in one head. But this is a first person very limited. The person doesn't even know their own history.
They're like, oh, I have armor. That's cool.
Well, if you read have y'all read the email itself?
No, because it kept going to my promotional, so I need to find it in there.
So at the end of the email, Brandon talks about his inspiration, and one of the things that he mentioned is back when he was GMing RPGs, one of the things that he liked doing was having everybody start where they didn't know who they were, and then have their backstory revealed over the course of the game itself. And so that's actually a trope that he has enjoyed playing with. He just hasn't put it into a book yet.
That's interesting.
Oh, so I found one of the books that I might have been looking at. It's Off to be the Wizard by Scott Meyer, but I don't know if that's the one I'm thinking of. But he's also a programmer. Anyway, but yes.
But yeah, so he said one of the things that he likes about it though is you don't have to obfuscate things that the perspective character knows that you don't want the audience to know yet. Because if the audience does, if the main character doesn't know it, you don't have to hide it. They just don't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I've kind of gone through this recently. One of my friends, I finally got to start reading Mistborn, and he recently got done with Final Empire. And
hi, Kami.
Yeah, Kamizite, if in chat, if you guys see him. One of the things we talked about was the fact that Kelsier, we get viewpoints from Kelsier, but Kelsier's, we have to obfuscate his plan. Like anytime he would start thinking about the grand plan, he has to, it's like, oh, that's a bigger problem. I'll talk about that later. And just, these little narrative sleight of hands in order to make it so that we can stay in his head without giving away the, one of the big plot twists of the book.
Yeah. He did it a bit he does it a bit in Stormlight with Shallan, where she'll be thinking of stuff and she'll actually dissociate.
Yeah.
Which
so it fits a little better. Yeah, it's a little more in character. Not that Kelsier isn't,
but it is a narrative sleight of hand. It's better than a bare bowl, but you still hang a lampshade on it.
Yeah, you don't see the seams quite as much with the Shallan case as opposed to Kelsier, because with Kelsier it's like, no, think about it. I want to know what it is. Don't avoid the issue. You know exactly what it is. You just don't want to tell me.
Of course he doesn't. There's always another secret.
But yeah, I'm very intrigued to learn more about whoever this guy is. Do we have a name for him?
I don't know that we do.
I don't think we do.
Because he doesn't remember a lot of things, so I don't think he said his name.
He's remembering some name.
Oh, that's the other part, is like, since I was listening to it, I'm not sure how to spell some of those words.
Oh, AELV.
Because I keep thinking of elf. I'm like, is that trying to be elf? I'm pretty sure it's trying to be elf, because that's what it is.
Well, it's England, so
they make everything lots of extra vowels and things.
The cheat that Brandon has pulled here, it's kind of a clever one, because it's England, but it's not. If he's inaccurate with anything,
it's great value brand England.
Yeah. It's just like if he misses anything and is inaccurate with it, oh, it's because it's different. This is
a different
England,
dimension,
but different.
Yeah,
in this planet, it does work this way.
He said that in the stream that he's like, yeah, I did it kind of so I wouldn't. He's like, I don't look in super deep into that. He's like, so this way I don't have to worry about inaccuracies.
Right.
So
it's a bit of a cheat, but it's a good cheat.
It's fine. It works. No one's gonna complain about it, and if they do, well then.
A wizard did it.
Yeah. No, but the other thing is just it's an interesting thing is it's clearly some sort of where he's from is clearly some sort of cyberpunk world. Because he's got chitinous skin armor stuff.
It's the future.
Yeah.
It's all good.
But I love the thing. It's like, oh, everyone typically starts top down, and then he realizes he
did my arms.
He went bottom up.
Yeah.
So he's still got the squishy head, but everything else is just fine.
Well, no, I think he realizes that he has like part of the head thing, but it's not fully upgraded or whatever.
He's got the trial version of WinRAR.
Yeah.
Now here's a question. This clearly takes place, if Earth is ever mentioned, then it's not in the Cosmere. Is his Earth our Earth, or are we just another variation in his dimensions? Like, is this the future of our Earth? Is this, science fiction?
It's the future of Rhythmatist Earth. We're getting the Rhythmatist sequel the long way around.
Oh man, no, I don't.
We find out that this is the Rhythmatist sequel we never wanted.
I mean, I like it too. Just not the way that.
Just not as the Rhythmatist sequel.
Just not as the Rhythmatist sequel. I want the other one still.
This is maybe not the Rhythmatist sequel you're looking for.
Or maybe this is Brandon's attempt to pull all of his books into a single multiverse, including the Cosmere and.
It turns out this entire Kickstarter campaign was trying to get enough emotional energy to punch a hole through reality and turn the Dragonsteel offices into a singularity.
Oh, man.
I wouldn't put it past him.
Or perpendicularity. Singularity. That'd be really bad.
Let's not suck
Dragonsteel into a black hole.
Especially because we're close.
Yeah, it's concerning.
Yeah. You guys are closer than me, but it's still not great.
I think it's kind of right between us.
Is it? Oh yeah, I guess
I don't know. We don't need to go into detail.
Anyway, it's nearby.
The point is, we're closer to Brandon than you are, probably.
Wow. And now we find out that, Emily listens to the podcast. She's just like, you think?
Emily, listen, Emily, if you're listening to the podcast,
would you like to be a guest?
Anytime. I did a good job delivering the DoorDash. We'll be even better interviewing you.
And I'll give you dice. It'll be great.
Okay. So back to this non-Earth pocket Earth.
Yeah. So it's I like that it's
in its pockets.
It was interesting listening to it because it was the morality quickly got a little bit iffy because it's like, well, you can do kind of whatever you want in the other worlds because otherwise there'd be huge moral issues with, well, if you go and buy a dimension and then you kill a bunch of people, how are you not committing lots of murder and genocide or whatever else? But it's your thing.
It's legally totally distinct Earth.
Mm-hmm. So that's that's a little worrisome right there.
Well, and I think that's why there's that concept of it's a little bit fuzzier or less substantial or something. Mm-hmm. It's just like, is that true or is that the company justifying?
I think there's some justification there.
I am loving the corporate lawyer speak throughout this. I am having a grand old time reading it.
Well, especially the footnotes are just like, this was written only for entertainment purposes. This is, we can't speak for how safe this actually is. You may, and we're not liable for any death, dismemberment, or other horrible things that happen to you.
Okay. Brandon needs to clean up the part where he's taking shots at Nebraska because it's way too much.
There's a bit much in there. I was just like, okay, dude.
It's like I understand.
I thought it was funny still.
Oh, it's still fun. It needs to be tightened up because it's like, okay, it's no longer the lawyer talking. This is definitely Brandon.
Yeah, but because that's his home.
Yep.
Yes.
It was just like, okay, I agree with you. It's like, okay, this is funny. Pull it back a little bit.
Just a smidge, but
well, it's too much. It's just a little too much turning and winking at the camera.
Yeah.
It's clearly breaking the fourth wall there. And to which everyone points out I'm a hypocrite because I want him to say, "Can you smell what Rock is cooking?" Don't point that out. Stop noticing things.
I could have sworn somebody said that in a book, though. That one of the things, but maybe I'm thinking of something else.
Somebody mentioned it during Intentionally Blank. I can't remember.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was an earlier episode. I remember seeing that.
Same.
Oh gosh.
Emily, if you're still listening, remind Brandon I have a crisp $20 bill.
Okay.
That is his.
Jordan, I really doubt Emily listens to our podcast.
You don't know.
If she did.
You don't know. And I can dream, can't I? Look, if this is Brandon's kids, Brandon's cousins, anyone related to Brandon, if you could get the word crisp $20 bill.
To our listeners, what do you think? Does Emily listen to our podcast?
If we put it to a poll, it'll make it happen.
Oh,
Clearly.
man.
Oh, man. So any final thoughts on, or you were saying?
It's kind of funny. Like, so he's going through all of the wizard guy. He's going through all this with jeans on. And I just can imagine some cosplayers loving that, being like, sweet, I can wear jeans with this one. Don't have to even find any fancy pants, just jeans. It'll be great.
Yeah. The other thing that was, so amongst the fun, quirky tone, throwing in the sudden sense of loss.
With Jane?
Yeah.
That was interesting. Just because it does such a good job of putting you in the mindset of the character.
Mm-hmm.
Since you get that gut punch just like they get that gut punch.
Yeah.
And it's from what I've read of grief and experienced a little bit myself, it seems like it never fully loses its potency, which makes sense with this guy, and he's remembering it, and and it's just like bam, it's there, and it's potent.
Although from the way he describes it, it actually was a recent development before this happened. So it's not only is it fresh to him right now, it was fresh.
It's still relatively fresh, in general. So,
but the way I've heard it described is that grief is like you have a box with a giant ball inside of it, and then there's a pain button, and the ball is moving around, and it's so big that even if it moves a little bit, it hits that pain button and it just hurts. And then over time, the ball gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And so it hits the button much less frequently, but every time it hits, it hurts just as much.
It still hurts just as much. Yeah, that's right.
That's the best description of grief I've ever.
Yeah, I think I saw you put that up, and it was a good one.
Yeah. So. But no, it's just really interesting the way that it shows up, and just suddenly he remembers it. It's actually very reminiscent of Dalinar remembering Evie.
I was going to say that the only time we've seen this experimented with was Dalinar slowly getting his memories back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just suddenly realizing that he was the one who had ordered her killed, not realizing it, but that he had done it.
Inadvertently done it, yeah.
And it just destroyed him. And so it's really interesting seeing that show up early in the series, though. Early in the book. Hopefully it's just a book. I don't need more series. Brandon, you need to finish the series you have before you start more.
Oops, all series.
Wow.
Oh my goodness.
But at the same time, like, I still say this. I would love if Brandon started outsourcing some of his books. If there's these little concepts that he wanted to do more of, he's like, I don't have quite time for it. And it's like, you've literally got an entire stable of writers that you've been training. Come on, can't you?
So on that vein, I don't have all the sources, but on today's live stream, I think it was today's live stream, or no, it was the one with Isaac. He talked about the fact that Isaac is writing a Mistborn side novel.
Really?
We knew about that.
We did?
I didn't know about this.
Nikki Savage.
See, I'd forgotten.
Because all the Nikki Savage stuff in the broadsheets was Isaac.
Yeah, but had he said that he was getting his own project?
I thought he mentioned that it was a possibility.
He gave a word count that he was a good ways through it.
That's awesome.
Recently, so I was like, "What?" And he had like a random nonsense title for it, and because they didn't know the title or they didn't want to say the title yet.
Is it Nikki Savage?
I think it's Nikki Savage.
Okay.
I can't remember. I know it was a character that I was like, wait, it's one of the broadsheet characters, but the name just like disappeared from my brain right away.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it's
and she was a leecher, right?
Related. I think it was related, and you see that character in his thing, maybe.
Because
there's check.
Because there's Nikki Savage, or referred to as Nicole Sauvage in the with the French name Nikki Savage.
So I think it's another character, but Nikki Savage is related or mentioned or something in it.
We're gonna have
it's her twin sister Vicky Savage.
We're gonna have like a buddy cop of Alamancer Jack and Nikki Savage teaming up together. It's basically gonna be Castle. Because instead of Nikki Heat, it's Nikki Savage.
And I was thinking Jack and Nikki.
Jack and Nikki
instead of Jack and Daxter.
Oh. Anyway.
Jack and Nixter.
But yeah, so if anybody knows more about that, let us know. Be really good. Yep. There's too much information. It's wonderful, but there's too much to keep track of.
It is currently drinking from a fire hose right now.
That's what the title was. Mm-hmm. The fake title's A Boat Full of Mummies. Thank you, Discgraphic. That's appreciated.
Nice.
Are you sure that isn't the title for one of our episodes? Because it sounds like one of the titles of our episodes.
Well, it's like
no, that was the title they had. It was amazing.
It's like A Fistful of Dollars. Which is so it's a play on.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. A Boat Full of Mummies.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah.
A fistful of boxings in that world.
Something like that.
No, but it is. It's totally drinking from a fire hose right now. There's so much going on. It's awesome. And somehow they're at $28 million and there's still 16 days to go on this campaign.
Whew. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, in other words, it's almost halfway done.
Yeah. Now, so I decided to go and look and see. And so I grabbed a random sample of some of the biggest campaigns and just went to see how long, how much they get, going through. And going into about the last couple days, it tends to be about 90% filled. Looking at where we're at now, if we assume that that's maybe 80%, where was that? Yeah, so 80%, so 28 divided by 0.8. We're looking at around $35 million.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on who who has already pledged, because there's a lot of times people who just wait, and then in the last day they jump in and pledge.
Once FOMO has fully taken effect.
Who knows whether because I feel like there's a lot of people who would normally do that who probably were just like, I'm just going to do it right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. It drove me crazy that I needed to talk what level we want to do with me and Josh. And so I had to wait until like in the afternoon or the evening. And I was like, but I need to do it now. I haven't pledged yet. I need to do it now.
You can change your pledge anytime until the last day.
it's
So if you do change your mind and you want to get the subscription box, I mean, it's not off the table yet. Amy.
I don't doubt that it's not worthwhile money wise, but it's still a lot. Oh,
I'm also, speaking of that, I'm also kind of disappointed because when I watched it, as soon as I got to the part where he mentioned the Kickstarter, I jumped over to it, and there were like $80,000 had been pledged.
Oh yeah.
I went through and I was like, okay, I'm doing my pledge now. And I went it, and apparently it didn't go through.
Oh no.
Because when I went back to check, it was at like 1.2 million already, and I was just like, so I'm not in like the first 80,000. No! But I went in and tried to do it. It's just the Kickstarter was.
Bill, are you trying to hipster us right now? That you backed the Kickstarter before it was cool?
I think you call it Kickster.
Okay, I like it.
And yes, I am. And I have no qualms with that. I tried to.
Oh.
No, the thing that I love about this entire thing is the fact that we're just going to keep getting more memes, and this is the other thing is this is like I told you about my friend Kamizite who finally started reading Mistborn. Kamizite was someone who read the entirety of the Wheel of Time. He was a big fan of it, but I never could quite get him to make the jump. And this is what's finally gotten that jump. My dad read Mistborn Era 1. But no, anyway, this whole thing is it's been so successful. I'm hearing it get brought up on multiple different places, in places that normally would not talk about Brandon whatsoever. Like that's how big of a cultural impact it is. This is just really cool. And I'm glad that we get to cover it, because this is an exciting time and it's going to be good.
Yep. Okay. Well, we love hearing from our listeners, so keep on sending in questions. You can ask us about the Cosmere, or you can drop us your ideas for topics you'd like us to discuss during the show. While you're at it, we would love to hear your feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you might have about what's going on at the Cosmere. You can send all questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and we could hopefully read that as part of the show. We also have a P.O. Box, which is the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. Now, we do have our own personal projects that we are working on. Amy, where can we find you outside of the podcast?
So my social medias are Facebook, Coincidence Cosplay and Props, Twitter, @CoincidenceCosp, because my name is too long. My Instagram is @Coincidence_Cosplay, and my TikTok is @CoincidenceCosplay, all one long word, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com. I finally actually put a picture of my Twi'lek up again, or a different picture that I've taken, and I'm going to try and actually start putting more TikTok videos up, because I have a few things, and I think I have all the costume parts I need to actually do my D&D TikTok stuff. So fingers crossed, I will start actually filming that. I can't guarantee how fast those things will get edited, because I don't know how hard that's going to be, but I'm going to try and make progress. And I'm really close on my Nazgul. I have the pattern cut out for the boot pieces. I just need to make the boot pieces for the armor, which is, I think, called Sabaton, or however you say that in French. Anyway, yeah, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to mess it up. So anyway, the boot armor. And then I'm going to try and work on pattern after that, I think, is my next big one with my big scary fingers. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. Jordan, how about you?
You guys can always find me on twitch.tv/splicestream. I just did the first of my we're really moving forward with the Amiibo Raid Boss Tower. We're going to be posting some videos here soon. Maddie Mouse, who's in chat, is helping me edit them, and I'm really liking the job she's done so far. I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So maybe also follow me on YouTube. It's also Splice Stream over on YouTube. I think you'll enjoy it. And this is an aside. If you normally sort of, once we get to the end stuff, quit, you need to listen to the very end of the podcast today.
Yeah, definitely listen at the end of this episode.
I don't know if this is something we're going to do again. It's something that has struck me at the moment, and it's an inspiration from a different podcast that I used to listen to.
That just ended.
Yeah. If you get what I'm referencing, I am requiring you to go find the video on YouTube and leave in a comment saying you get what we're referencing. Like, you don't have an option in this. You have to do it. I need to know if anyone else gets this reference, or if I'm only amusing myself. But for the record, that is enough for me to do things. I just want to know if anyone else gets it.
Yeah. As for myself, I have another podcast with my friend Dylan. We talk about board games, and it's a lot of fun. We actually came out with a bonus episode last week, because the previous week we were at Dice Tower West, and it was kind of amazing. And so we decided to record an episode live while we were there. But our most recent episode was our top 3 games for 2 players exclusively. So not just games that play well at 2 players, but our top 3 games that are for 2 players. And then our next episode coming up this Friday is a mailbag episode where we answer a question from a listener. This one was, are board games really more social than video games? And if so, or if not, why or why not? I've also got several board game reviews over on www.innkeeperstable.com. And occasionally we'll post about games on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Innkeeper's Table Podcast. For those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become patrons, we would love it if you'd just let your friends know about the show. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, to go over to youtube.com/Cosmere Studies, to like and subscribe over there. And if you want to toss us a good review wherever you listen to us, that would be amazing. Also, make sure to head over to store.streamelements.com/Cosmere Studies to buy SICS merch, because we have merch now. Now, we have special thanks to our patron producer, Mim's Laundry Service. We like to remember the beloved children's rhyme from our childhood. Secret secrets, lots of fun. Keep your secrets. Hurt someone. In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions for the show, email them to cosmerestudies@gmail.com. In our next episode, we'll be continuing our discussion of these secret projects that Brandon's been announcing, and by the time we record our next episode, he'll have released the titles and first few chapters of the other 2 books. So make sure to be here when we record live at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern in 2 weeks on March 28th, 2022 at www.twitch.tv/Innkeeper's Table. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening. And remember, there's always another secret.
Brandon's bankrolled books beat boulders. It's the overly invested news, and I'm Splice the Stream. When local wordsmith Brandon Sanderson announced that he had an announcement, there was trepidation in the book community, but that soon would pale in comparison to the shaking that would be going on in the fundraising community. When Mr. Sanderson announced he was not taking a break, but rather had written 5 books during the COVID quarantine, his fan base rejoiced and showed their satisfaction by hightailing it over to his Kickstarter campaign to fund his feverishly formulated fantasy features. Before this, the highest-grossing Kickstarter campaign ever had been for the Pebble Time smartwatch, coming in at a very impressive $20.3 million. But could simple stories top a technologically advanced timepiece? That question was quickly answered, as the donations piled in faster than any could have anticipated. Within the first few days of his campaign, the secret book project had hit #1 all-time on Kickstarter. Internal sources within the fantasy community had always believed that Mr. Sanderson's book project would beat the stone-themed smartwatch. When reached for comment, one fantasy author said, while others had been skeptical if a series of fantasy books could best the Pebble Time smartwatch campaign, those of us who work to bring books to life knew Brandon would come out on top and show Pebble what's for. After all, paper always beats rock. Broadcasting over all the Cosmere, I'm Splice the Stream. For more of my punny stylings, follow me over on twitch.tv/SpliceStream.